Hey guys, welcome to the episode 51 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today we're hanging out with the one and only, it makes me say that, it's kind of weird, the Cocky Jerk.
Absolutely.
Those of you that have been following us on YouTube a little bit, you'll notice that we have a new sponsored athlete here at Hostile Gear. I'm always giving you guys a hard time about buying shirts. Make sure you buy shirts from hostilegear.com. So we got Bryan Briggs with us. Cool story. You're going to let him get into it in a few minutes and stuff. But just cool guy. I like what he's doing. I like his message. He's got a really cool YouTube website out there called House of Gainz.
With a Z.
With a Z. I was about to do the Z, the Z, whatever you're into. And just telling his story, which is a really sharp one. And we've been doing actually a lot of stuff over at the gym, at the hangar. Just training together, shooting some video, and just because I think we parallel each other a lot in what we're doing and what our message is. And I've gotten to know Bryan. He's one of the reasons why I brought him on as a sponsored athlete, because what he's doing to me is pretty impressive. And let's get into that, Bryan. So welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here.
Cool. So yeah, tell us, what's the background? What's the Cocky Jerk all about? And you know what's really funny is when you get to know Bryan, he's the furthest thing from a cocky jerk. So that in itself is a story.
Well, it is a funny story. Well, I guess just start off about the whole lifting background, when all that started and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, I was raised in a small town outside of Ottawa, and I had an older brother who, I have to say, in my family, my brother and my sister were tremendous athletes. We always had a funny joke because my brother was amazing at track and field. He was obsessed with the Olympics, and he would just destroy and annihilate everybody in competitions and everything. His big thing was 110-meter hurdles, but this is late 70s, early 80s, so he used to just annihilate everybody in the area in competitions, and he'd always end up being at OFSA, which is the best in the province, and the competitions are always in Toronto. And we used to get a kick out of that because he'd be the only white guy at the very end competing against everybody. Yeah. So we used to get, but he was, and my sister was an excellent athlete too, very gifted, destroyed people in track and field too and everything. I was more of a hockey guy. Just, my dad loved hockey, loved the Toronto Maple Leafs, and God bless his soul. But so my brother, anyway, he was obsessed with the Olympics. He would book time off work to record the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and it was so funny. So he had a little bit of an interest in bodybuilding. And so in the early 80s, he had this book that was always around the house all the time. It was called High Intensity Bodybuilding by Ellington Darden, based on the training principles of Arthur Jones, the owner of Nautilus.
Nautilus, yeah.
And it was going on about, the whole thing about Casey Viator putting on, what was it, like how many pounds of muscle?
Yeah, like 25, 28 pounds of muscle.
And Sergio Oliva was in it, and Juliette Bergman was in it. Tom Platz was in it. I didn't even know what a quadricep was at the time. You're looking at, like, these people look like they're from outer space to me. Yeah. But for some reason, I had a little bit of an interest, and I started, he had a barbell and some dumbbells, the typical York stuff kicking around the house. So I'd do a little bit of that, but I didn't have any testosterone in my body. I was too young. But we moved to Ottawa in summer of 86. I was between grade 7 and grade 8, and I didn't really fit in. I didn't really feel I fit in much in the new, like I was in this big city, big school. I didn't really connect with a lot of people, and I felt very isolated.
The new guy, yeah.
So I really got into, I had an interest in martial arts, and I had an interest in pro wrestling, and I had an interest in working out. So just, I didn't really have a lot of friends, so I got into working out. And it was interesting with my brother because he'd have all these Olympic books and encyclopedias and stuff. And I remember when I was a kid distinctly, the first time I ever heard the word steroid was he had this encyclopedia, and I was looking, I think it might have been the 72 Olympics, but it was this Russian shot putting woman. And this was like late 70s, early 80s when I was looking at this. And I said to him, that looks like a man. Why is that woman so big? He said, well, some athletes use something called steroids. They make their anabolic steroids. They make your body, you perform better and you can get very big on them. But he'd say, well, they shorten your lifespan and stuff. But I always remember certain things from my brother in that way. As time went on, I learned that I have like an OCD personality. I'm very type A. I'm extremely driven to the point where it could be unhealthy. Sorry.
Right. Which leads unhappiness, of course.
Yeah, but so I continued working out in high school and into my college years, and I was very well accomplished. Kurt and I have joked around many times about when I trained in Ottawa in my early 20s, I was very strong on the bench press. I was very fortunate to be fairly good at all three lifts.
Right.
Deadlift would be my best, but I've never really had formal training until the past few months.
Right.
Working on my deadlift. And but I was bench pressing in the neighborhood of 500 pounds when I had my first pec tear, 97. But we used to have a joke because like I didn't know Kurt, but I knew of him because people would say, well, Kurt Haas, this guy, he's benching this and that. I'd be like, who the hell's Kurt Haas? So that was back in the 90s. But I suffered my first pec tear at the time. I was doing about 500 pounds. It was around 500. And I brought the, I brought the bar down, and then on the way down, I felt this weird pull on my right side. I still pushed it up, racked it.
Right.
But I had this massive green bruising and blotching all the way down my arm.
Jesus, yeah.
So for the years after that I kept training, anytime I went past 315, I'd feel like this weird pull.
Yeah.
And then I could barely move my arm for like a week. I'd be like, oh man. So another love I had in my life was playing guitar. And I always did that throughout my life as well. And when I was working out at that point, around that time, I really wanted to be a pro wrestler because you think, hey, you get into that.
That's exciting for sure.
Make lots of money. And then, but I went into it. I got formally trained. I got an instructor, went to a school. I worked in high tech during the week. And then on weekends, I'd be traveling in Ontario and Quebec working on the independent circuit. And
so like doing shows and shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What was your who were you? What was your name?
Actually, interestingly, my gimmick was called the Prototype. And John Cena had a name called the Prototype, but this was years after I was the Prototype.
Oh, okay, so you were the original Prototype.
Yeah, don't worry, John. I'm not going to make a legal case out of this or anything. But so it was just a masked character with like these different, like a red and black suit on or whatever. But I was always attracted more to the real physique guys in wrestling, like the Ultimate Warrior. Whatever.
Oh, my favorite. Yeah,
Jim Hellwig, of course, and also Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump, and it's ironic.
Goldberg.
Goldberg. So what had happened was I did the wrestling for a few years, and how do I word this properly? I had a number of injuries.
Okay. It's pretty arduous, that sport?
It's a very arduous. And interestingly, so after that, I tried to make the transition to become an MMA fighter.
Okay.
And I got into training. Formerly, my base was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did take a little bit of Sambo lessons, and also I did some Muay Thai and some boxing lessons. And, sometimes you have these moments in your life. So I remember... It was in 99. I went down to what's called the NAGADS, the North American Grappling Association. Yep. They had a big contest, December of 99. And I went down and I was in the intermediate class because I'd only been training for a couple of years. And this guy that I was facing in my match, I always did well in competitions. I'd always win my matches usually, but I'd always pull or tear something.
Okay.
And so this is where, I don't know how Ken Shamrock did it, but guys that have a lot of muscle mass and... who are really strong. Sometimes it doesn't always complement.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that much of a bonus in that kind of sport, right?
So when I went to this event, and this was in, it was just outside of Hartford, and you're at this high school, and the gym holds like 4,000 people.
Yeah, there's big fucking high schools out there, man.
It's crazy. And so I went up against this guy, and Henzo Gracie was in his corner.
Right.
And Henzo was such a nice guy. I mean... But anyway, I beat this guy on points. I couldn't quite sink the choke in. He reversed, I held on to guard, and it was quite the match. And I knew I had potential to do it, but I sat there and I was watching these guys. Matt Serra, who went on to he was in the super fight. He of the tournament. He was there. I'm trying to remember. I know there's some other big name people there.
Right.
I don't remember them. Mario Sperry was there. Henzo Gracie was there. But I just remember looking at all these guys, and these guys had sponsors. And I was already racking up a lot of injuries. And I just thought, man, you have to be completely honest with yourself here.
Okay.
You have potential. You've been given genetic gifts for different fields.
Right.
But you're racking up injuries. These guys don't even have to worry about working, a lot of them. They have sponsors. They had all the top guys, the guys that were doing really well.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know. I got my trophy. I had a badly torn groin just from that one match. So it's like I do well in the one match and then boom, like something would pull a bicep or you do this or do that. And I remember when I got home, I remember maybe a couple of weeks later, I was out training again. I was doing some sparring and I fractured my hand. And I remember for a while, I just said, you know what? I put my body through a lot. I'm just going to get back into the music things that, I'd done some gigs and played in some bands over the years and stuff. I always had a hard time, maybe with my OCD, making both coexist well.
Right.
One would always suffer, the training or the guitar playing. So I switched gears, and I...
Not as many injuries in the guitar playing.
No. But so I went into that for a number of years, and did very accomplished guitar player. I did really well. Learned a lot of business. I had a very successful guitar lesson business. And I gigged a lot in different bands, and dealing with musicians. Like, I have OCD, so I think one of the reasons I relate to you so well, I don't know if I want to say that you have OCD, but you're very type A alpha driven.
Yeah.
Like, when we talk, we can really relate.
Yeah.
Like earlier today, I was listening to the podcast you put up this morning. I think it was called A Day in the Life.
A Day in the Life, yeah.
And so my wife happened to be downstairs in the studio when I was listening to it while I was working away. And you were talking about, I don't think I wasn't built to work 40 hours a week for someone else, something like that.
Yeah.
And she said, my God, is that you talking? I said, no, it's Kurt. She said, no, but I mean, is that you talking?
Oh, cool. Similar message. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I always found bands very hard because they always say you have to have either a democracy or a dictatorship.
Okay.
And so
it's like the politics of a band.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, if you leave tasks and collectively, if everyone's supposed to pull their weight collectively, everyone doesn't always do that.
Right.
It's not as much of a priority and this and that all around the table.
Right.
So if you've been in business or maybe had employees, maybe you can
Yep.
relate to that. But so I did that for a number of years, and but I'd gotten very obese. I think at my very worst, I was about 380 pounds. I was a food addict.
Okay.
I felt horrible,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, you got to start doing something here. You're going to be laying on a slab soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I got out of. I still actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I have one day I reserved where I teach some of my best students,
Right.
and most. A lot of them have moved on. I've taught some people who have become amazing musicians.
Cool.
But the shift had changed. I noticed in about 2006, I was pumping out a lot of really good musicians, good guitar players. And then in 2006, the tide changed. And I used to think, well, is it me? Is it my methods? Well, no, my methods are proven, they're solid. Well, is it them? But then I realized what happened in 2006 was social media started to come out.
Right.
The Xbox came out.
Right.
Call of Duty came out.
Right.
And then also that's when it started to become accepted for like teenagers and kids to have cell phones.
Right.
Around 2006, 2007, I would say. But I noticed a decline, even though I was making quite a bit of money financially. I was always big on doing a business analysis of things. I always analyze things. Like, I used to say, okay, I'm hitting a financial wall with my income. What can I do to break through this? I would accept no limitations.
Right.
So I'd always come up with different strategies. I remember one summer, because for guitar lessons, the summer always kind of slows down for lessons. So I'd ramp up how many gigs I was playing.
Okay.
But then I got into things where I had to start dabbling in different things. I started, 2006, 2007, I started learning, I learned this before that, but, HTML web design. I started to learn how to marketing tricks. I started to learn how to do video editing, everything, because I wanted to be successful.
Yeah.
And, I think that the world owes you nothing, but the world is also your oyster. It's what you make of it. So,
Sure.
So I would come up with different. I remember one summer I wanted to make more money, so I produced my own beginner lessons little DVD series.
Right on.
And I mailed it out to students and customers, just advertising on different boards and stuff.
Yeah, back then message boards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. There's a diversity in your background, but at the same time, there's some underlying themes. Is that whatever you get into, you get into.
Yeah, probably to the point that it's probably unhealthy.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, you know what? I think at the end of the day, maybe that's something that, we can look back and say that is, or that's also what I think drives us forward. And for us, maybe as we get older and a little wiser, is to recognize that potential and saying, hey, so for example, now you're into your YouTube channel, and we'll talk about that. So I think just, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it, I think is a huge gift. But at the same token, I think now we start to realize, albeit that's happening, I think on Sundays I need to spend time with my wife or kids or whatever you're into, your other aspects and the different things that you're doing. So I think it's important to have that drive. But I think as we get older, we have to realize that there's a little bit of balance that's required and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what happens is we go so far, and in the moment something like that that just ends or our interests change or something happens, then we have nothing on the other side.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I'd rather see a life of passion and drive and have to fix some of those things along the way than to have a life of regret and a life of just, I say it all the time, Netflixing and stuff. And
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. And then, you're fucking always resentful. And then next thing you know, you start becoming jealous.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of stuff. And really what you are is you're unhappy with yourself. So given the opportunity to have both, I'd rather be overdriven and once in a while have to say, hey, you know what? I got to look at some other stuff or maybe I've been pushing things too hard and I need to look back and look at what's happening around me and those around me as well. And I can totally get that. And I think, like I said, I think it's a plus, but I think at the same time, it's one of the Achilles heels to that type of character.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned an interesting term when you said jealousy. And the one thing I can always say, because believe me, I have a list of flaws, but one thing I can say about it is I've never, ever been jealous in my whole life.
Wow, very nice.
And I've always had that attitude. If I want something, well, why be jealous of somebody? Go out and work hard for it.
Yep.
It's there. It's up to you. Like,
yep.
And you see this in the gym industry. You see this. I've seen this in the music industry. Like, if you're in a band and people are coming up saying you got a smoking hot guitar player, well, why be jealous of that if it's helping you get attention and gigs and make more money?
The ego, right? The fragile ego of the people around you, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Like,
it's tough.
Like
it's
with
tough.
lifting, like I'd say, okay, if I see someone on YouTube or something who's doing something awesome, well, what's stopping me from doing that?
Well, I do believe in that. If someone can do something, someone else can do it as well, right?
Well, and I've seen that I've seen that in past training partners and friends and stuff, and where it's their biggest enemy, and it's like, why are you like that? Why don't you just look at the potential I've seen people with potential, and it's like it just destroys them, and it's like, like jealousy is just such a cancer.
I think it is, and I think if you catch yourself even getting close to that, then usually that's a sign that you're unhappy with something you're doing
Absolutely.
or not doing, and then take that minute and say, okay, well, why am I feeling this?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but that's the grown-up way. That's the mature way of doing it, I think. And I think the hard part about growing up and maturity is that it comes with time.
Oh,
It comes
absolutely.
with scars, right? It comes with fucking shit up and realizing, all right, we don't want to do that again.
No,
overall.
absolutely, yeah.
So big time training, bunch of injuries,
Oh,
couple of shifts, music, shift from there. So let's bring it to, you're how old now?
I am 44.
So let's bring it to, you're 44, the last 2 years now you've decided to start the YouTube channel, House of Gainz. What came first, you getting back in shape and healthier, or the YouTube channel, or was that kind of one came at the same time, or what tell us a bit about that.
Well, I started working out, really getting back into the working out in maybe February of 2014. But what had happened was, so I'd been working out for a while, but I had a number of personal problems. I got into, I'm going to be careful what I say. I got into a situation where I kind of got financially involved to try and help some friends out,
Right.
who are in the industry, and I didn't really realize their background, and it came out pretty bad. There was a big loss there, and in a lot of ways, and it was hard for me to accept the fact that there's people that are like that out there that will, if they say you have something, they'll go to any lengths to do that, even when you've been nice and generous to them.
Yeah.
And that,
Well, they see that sometimes as a way in or a weakness. I've often said, don't mistake my niceness for weakness and stuff. And I think the hard part too, and again, just getting to know you a little bit, is I think we're similar in that we'll give the shirt off our back.
Yeah.
And then eventually we'll realize that we're getting jerked around. And then when that happens, it's never pleasant.
So,
That kind of thing.
So 2014 was an interesting, I was working out, I was making progress, I was dropping some weight, I was getting stronger. And I always had faith when I went to the gym that, I always knew when the muscle memory is going to kick in. The first few weeks are horrible, but then it kicks in. But I did have a lot of personal problems that came up, and this might be a good form to just touch on them a little bit. So I had that going on. It turned into a legal event. I was just so taken aback that human beings could be like that. I had no idea. Like, when you go out of your way to help out friends, and people turn around and do things like that, it was such an eye opener for me. But and then my dad died suddenly. He passed away, and I was very close with my dad.
Was he ill, or was that just like a...
Well, it's very interesting. My dad told me a few weeks before he died, he said, I'm not really, I haven't been feeling good, Brian. Like, he didn't even tell my mom this, But he said, I get to the top of the stairs, I'm out of breath, I'm tired a lot. Like the signs were there, but my dad, he wasn't the type to go to a doctor, right? Where I would, But and we had talked, and he actually was having an interest in, getting into working out.
How old was your dad?
75.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he lived a very good life, and I always admired my dad because I'm almost like this tormented, driven OCD alpha guy, and my dad could just be so mellow.
He was Mr. Laid Back, yeah.
And but anyway, it was very sad because we had talked about that. He had an interest in maybe testosterone therapy or whatever, and but my dad did not doctor well, and he passed away very suddenly, and that really affected me. We have I won't mention his name here, but you and I have a mutual friend we were just talking to yesterday. Okay. He had a parent when his parent passed away. It was very catastrophic for him, and you get hit with these emotions that you're not used to dealing with. My sister was diagnosed with we understood it was to be terminal cancer. So these were hard times going through, and I had made some very bad decisions. I had to go on some anti-anxiety medication. And I'd separated from my wife, which I accept all the blame for. But so, I got myself in a situation where I was in a professional wrestling match. I got back into wrestling, and but I had an agreement with myself that if I ever had a serious injury, so I did some wrestling here and there for about a year. And then I fractured my foot badly in a match, and I still got up, powerbombed the guy, finished the match. I have no idea how that happened.
Just adrenaline, buddy.
Yeah, my foot was mangled so badly. So that was in June of 2016. And that summer, so I had my own apartment, and as soon as I could walk again, the first thing I did is I went to the gym. I was in a walking cast.
Right.
And I started doing tricep. The first exercise was like tricep pushdowns with like 50 pounds. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome,
you could do with one finger.
Yeah.
I felt something move in my stomach. It ended up being a diocese hernia.
So was that something that had happened from your wrestling, and then it just...
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know.
Could have been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't from the tricep pushdown.
No.
Okay.
Well, it was just because it wasn't even heavy weight. It was really weird. So then I still trained through it, and we went into this bench press competition. You were there.
Oh, this was at Brockville, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was... I'd always said, I know it's not a lot for my size, but if I could just do like an official 405 bench and because 405 for me is not really heavy. I know I could do much more than that. But so I talked with my RMT. We knew it was a risk, and I was just so tired of having to feel the handicap of my pack because every time I went over 315, even though sometimes I go through spells where it was okay. I could rep with it. I could do close grips with it. And then so we were there. Boom. And
the day of the meet, you're competing and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So I think I did an easy 365.
Yeah.
I just was, it was nothing. I could rep that, no problem. Yeah. And 385, I was lowering it, and boom, it was like lightning. 385 or 405, I don't remember. And I just said to my wife, who was nice enough to be there, we were separated at the time, but I said, just take me to the hospital. I can feel the hole in my chest.
Oh, Jesus.
And but what had happened was, and this is interesting too, during that time, I was on anti-anxiety medication. I never really had problems with addictions before, except for food.
Right.
But when you're in the hospital or they give you pain meds, like they were offering me Percocets and everything. And it was just, before I knew it, I was just, I was already depressed. It was one of those situations where,
it just fed right into it.
Yeah. And I mean, Kurt, I've known you long enough now. You're a very generous guy. Mm-hmm. Which is weird for me because I'm not used to people being generous to me. I'm used to people always saying, "Hey man, can I borrow $100? Can you do this for me? Can you do that?" I always hold people at a natural distance now. Yep. Yeah, after some things that have happened to me the past couple of years. But I just got roped in with those things, and I wanted to get away from reality. I tried overdosing many times alone in my apartment. And but I'd wake up the next morning like I can laugh at it a little bit now. It's like Groundhog Day. It's like, well, tonight I'm going to take more.
Yeah.
And go to sleep. But it's funny, all these friends that you've been good to or generous to or supportive, they just disappear.
Yeah.
And that was just a very hard time, and I had made some very bad decisions, which I've owned up to. And my wife and I are back together, and
good.
Nothing would ever separate me from her again because she's been my rock through to love someone enough to take them back and say, yeah, let's make this work.
Yep.
Like that's.
Well, I'm sure when you were going through that, and a lot of people were distancing themselves from you.
Yeah,
she wasn't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it's when we go through our shit, that's when we get to realize who really is around for us and stuff like that, right? And it'll be shockingly few.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's always good to have that realization, to know that, to see that, right? And that hopefully, and sounds like for you as well, has changed your perspective on some things as well, right?
So what had happened was, we got back together in October, about a year ago. And I said, okay, I was still trying to work out, Kurt. I was just like, my body was just like, you need to take a break. Yeah. So I took about 3 months off, and I said, okay, what are you going to do? Okay, this sucks, but your body needs to try and recuperate from this. So, okay, well, I want to be productive. This YouTube channel that I have sucks. The videos are horrible. Who would watch this?
So you'd started this
March of 2015.
Okay. And what made you do that? You just woke up one morning and say, hey, YouTube's where it's at, kids? Or
well, I had a YouTube channel for my music business.
Okay.
So, and I had a little bit of experience in video editing. At the time, I had there was a co-host.
You don't have to say his name.
No. And it's one of those things, like for whatever reasons, we have nothing to do with each other, whatever. But I don't want to say anything negative. It's just
absolutely no need to.
It just wasn't working out for him or whatever. But
sometimes that's it. Sometimes I've been around for a long time, and I've been in business for a long time, and a lot of people have come and a lot of people have gone.
Yeah.
And when it didn't work out, it was really hard on me.
Yeah.
And then now, when it doesn't work out, it's still hard on me. But I also understand that people come and people go for certain reasons, and if there are reasons that I fucked up, then I always do the best to especially now, to try to make up for it. But sometimes they just they're not where your vision's going, and that's okay.
Yeah, and so he wanted to start the channel. I was thinking of doing my own anyway, but he wanted to start it. But it was a very tumultuous time in my life,
right?
And for anybody who wants to make gains in the gym, when you have straighten your personal shit out, because
stress.
If you've got personal problems and stuff. But anyway, House of Gainz was he came up with the name. I don't remember who came up with the flip the S to the Z.
Right.
A common question we get on our channel is, did you get that name from Robert Frank 615? Right. And I told people, I put a video up a few weeks back, answering that question. I said, 2015, we didn't even know who Robert Frank was. Right. So it was the co-host who came up with the name. I've met Robert Frank back in the summer. Very nice guy, but I didn't know who the hell he was.
He's that crazy guy that does a lot of his videos from his inside his vehicle, screaming and stuff like that.
It's Gainz o'clock. Let's go.
That guy. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
Well, he found his niche too, right? I mean, what I like to do is I like to take a lot of the popular YouTubers and go back in their library and look at their older videos.
See how they evolved, right?
See how they evolved. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, from there, I ramped up. We got the green screen. We got more powerful computers, new software. We got new mics. I just really worked hard at just trying to ramp up production.
And again, your OCD starts to kick in, right?
Yeah. Like I don't idle well. You know, if you went on a holiday and said, hey, you know what? I'm taking everyone on a holiday. Kurt, I'm not a good guy to go on a holiday with.
Right.
Like, I couldn't lie on a beach all week. I go nuts. So anyway, so about February, I started feeling better, and well, at least feeling I could train again. But I
this is like 8 months ago.
Yeah, I took I was February, November, December, January. I took off, and then early February because I lost a lot of my gains. I was getting fat.
Yeah.
So I started working out very slowly. It was very embarrassing, and then I set a goal for myself. I couldn't even, because my foot was so mangled, I couldn't even plant my foot properly to squat or to deadlift until, I don't know when it was, but I'd set a goal for myself. This whole Brad Castleberry thing started.
Mr. Fake Weights.
Yeah, but he'd actually been around for a few years.
Yeah.
There's a powerlifter called the Greek Goliath called him out 2 years ago.
Oh.
A lot of people don't know that. But Mark Lobliner from Tiger Fitness, Massive Iron Steve Shaw from Tiger Fitness, they were putting together this thing called Real Weights for Real Heroes. Mm-hmm. It was in August.
Veterans, right?
Yeah, for the Semper Fi vets. The guys.
In the States, yep.
Yeah, they have the instance with the landmines and all that stuff. So anyway, they were talking about like Brad Castleberry, and I made a video about why Brad Castleberry should do it, and Jason Blaha should do this to try and.
Now, for those of you that don't know, these are some characters that are on YouTube, and we'll put a few show notes on some of those down there. Luke will do that, so you can check out some of their stuff. Some of these guys, when you talk about Lobliner and Shaw and stuff like that, these guys are pretty sharp characters that have their own style, but they they have a passion for training and stuff like that, which is cool. And then you get the Blahas and the Castleberries, and again, interesting, but they're kind of like the buffoons a bit, in the industry, and not quite Jason Genova level, but that's a whole other fucking ball game there and stuff. But definitely some entertaining and stuff like that. And I gotta say, for us, when obviously we have the podcast, and we're at episode 51, and this is a thing, as you guys heard before, that this is like my platform that I'm really loving. But the other thing I'm looking at is the YouTube. But again, like you said, just being myself and seeing what's going on, I always want to make it that if you watch one of our videos, you're getting something from it, right? That kind of thing. And there's going to be haters out there in comments where they're going to say stupid shit no matter what you do. But I definitely don't want to go and give them, just cause, because I'm out there doing something stupid or trying to be controversial for the sake of being controversial and stuff like that. So and you and I have having discussions about that, and looking at how we can look at our channel and do some cool stuff, but still be hostile and still be me and that kind of thing, which is important. So it's pretty interesting to see, but it's good to watch some of these other guys, what they're doing and how they're finding, like you said, their voice, their character, and I think the closer it gets to your true identity, I think the easier it is to do. Like, as you guys hear on the podcast, I'm me. If you run into me on the street, it's the same thing. If we're sitting in a car, it's pretty much the same thing and stuff like that. So I think that's super important, because it's also easy to maintain that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's close to who you are and stuff like that. So,
well, so that this was going on, and Mark Lobliner had issued a challenge to Brad Castleberry to come to Real Ways for Real Heroes. He even said he would pay his way.
Right.
Cover all his expenses.
Yeah.
I think
no excuses, right?
No excuses. Yeah, I think he even might have said, "I will pay you if you can do what you say." I kind of forget.
There was something about a $10,000.
Yeah, there was something about that going on. But so there's a whirlwind.
$1 million in Canadian, guys, by the way.
Yeah. So that's why I always tell my friends, my American friends on YouTube, I say, if you go to hostilegear.com, use my code CockyJerk20. I said, not only are you getting the 20% discount, but the exchange.
Yeah, exactly.
On some great stuff.
You're paying on the Canadian peso. It's very
Canadian peso. So anyway, so all this was going on. There's a big swirl of that going on. I posted a few videos, and over that time, I started to kind of connect with Massive Iron Steve Shaw.
Yep.
And I was talking to my wife one day. I said, you know what? Even though my foot isn't really, I'm not going to have much time to train for it. Your deadlift's been your best lift.
Yep.
And just set a goal, even if you're not going to be at your best.
Just fucking go.
Set a goal. Be there. Do what you can.
Yeah.
You're going to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
And we always go to the Toronto Pro Super Show, and I met a lot of people. We got to meet Rich Piano, thank God, before he passed away a few weeks later. A lot of stuff had happened. The YouTube channel just started getting a bit more momentum, and I was able to start deadlifting. I remember the gym I was at. It was in Stittsville. I went there for the day, and I hadn't deadlifted and I pulled an easy 455, and everyone's looking at me like I'm strong or something in this gym. I'm like, oh, this sucks, but at least I got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
On the inside, you're like, oh my God, I'm so weak. On the outside, people are like, who's that guy? Yeah.
So anyway, so I only had a few weeks of training, and we went down there, and I tell this story a lot on the YouTube channel. Like, it's amazing. Sometimes one of the amazing things about YouTube is it takes a lot more work, but you'd be amazed at the people and the connections and the people that actually see you. And, I had been through so much negativity and so much the past couple of years, from 2014, 2016, hardest years of my life. And Steve Shaw, it was funny. My wife said, well, if we're going to go down there, why don't we go to, actually it says Reading, but the pronunciation is Reading, Pennsylvania.
Reading, Pennsylvania, yeah.
Because, let's go to Dana Lynn Bailey's gym.
Right.
And we'll make a trip of it.
Yeah.
I said, sure. So we went down there. So we were in Reading, and the gym was, we went to the Warhouse gym. It was really nice. Dana Lynn Bailey, we met her. She had a very serious personal issue going on, so she couldn't stay and talk, but we understood because we were going through something similar.
Right.
And, but we met her, and it was nice and everything, but I'm there working out in the hammer strength room, and I get a message from Massive Iron Steve Shaw. And you got to remember, I was watching his videos, and Mark, even when I was really obese, I was watching Mark Lobliner's videos. Yep. I got a kick out of him with the boom, tigerfitness.com.
Yeah.
So anyway, and Jerry Ward and all those guys, Big J, I watched all their videos. Yeah, and so I get a message from on Instagram from Steve Shaw. He said, "What time are you getting to Cincinnati tomorrow?" I said, "Well, we're hoping to be there in mid-afternoon." He said, "Can you go? We'd like you to come to Tiger Fitness. We'll give you a tour."
How cool is that, eh?
Like, I just like, as I said, I'm always I was so jaded and such a bad spot. Like, so when someone's actually acting out of kindness and goodness,
you're wondering what's behind this.
Yeah, like, yeah. Well, it was just, I was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I had a great workout, and I hardly slept. I was so excited.
Yeah,
so we were up at 8:00 and out that door, and we drove across the states. My God, it was awesome.
You know what's really cool, guys? If you're listening just to his voice, he's 44 years old and he's excited.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about, right? When we're at our stage of over 40, over 50, over 60, fucking find something that gets you this excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's super important. And I don't give a shit what it is. Find it, right? Or odds are you know what it is, but you're just so afraid, or you don't know how. It's so overwhelming to get from where you are to where that is and stuff like that, right? But the other thing that, if you listen to what Bryan's saying, is that over and over again, what I hear is that taking action.
Yeah.
And you know what? When you put yourself out there, other people that have done it start to see that. Right? I always, one of my favorites, I think one of my favorite analogies for this is, you remember Star Trek, The Next Generation, like the third worst fucking rendition of Star Trek, but then they did these movies, right? And the one movie where they have to travel back in time to Earth for the Borg and stuff, and it's at the time when their Earth humans are about to invent warp speed for the first time. So Buddy gets up, he finally does it, he does like a lap around the universe, whatever, and when he comes back, all of a sudden the Vulcan guy lands and says, "Hey, you're finally at warp speed. We're going to come and talk to you." They've been around forever, right? Watching this, and then when they see that you've come to this level, then other people will come out and say, "Hey, now that you're here, you're sort of proving yourself to this level. We're ready to have a conversation with you." You kind of earn your chops a bit that way. And I always remember that scene going, "That's exactly what it's like."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, my parallel, somewhat of a similar parallel that I would tell people is, this might sound kind of cheesy, but one thing that always stuck with me, I always say, and this is true for me, I can't live to be average. I'd rather be dead. And like, even if I died tomorrow, which I don't want to, because I have a lot of big plans ahead of me, but I've lived a pretty fruitful life. I think of the movie Braveheart. The first time when the pseudo Scottish army's assembling and they're going to face this massive English army across the field. And these guys are like going, "Man, I'm getting the hell out of here."
They're starting to turn around. Yeah.
And William Wallace rides in and he just says, like, "Where are you going?" "Well, we're going to go home where we'll live." And he's like, "Yeah, you might live for a few years, but dying in your beds when you're older.
Yeah.
Do you want to look back on this day and say, like, do you really want to live your life in fear and always living in the box?"
Yeah.
And then when you look back, because we don't know when our time comes.
Yeah.
Do you want to look back and say, "Man, why the fuck did I not try?"
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, I think what the other part he said too was really sharp, is that every man dies, but very few men truly live.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's how I'm wired. But so we zipped across and we made it to Cincinnati, and it was funny because at the time, I don't know if you're aware of who Alan Roberts is from Every Damn Day Fitness.
No.
Well, Alan started his
Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, no.
He doesn't know who I am either. I don't give a fuck.
Alan's a pretty good guy. He started his channel Every Damn Day Fitness about a year ago.
Okay.
And already had, like, within less than, by the summer, he had like 15, 20,000 subscribers, which is massive. And he's a very animated character, but him and Mark Lobliner did not like each other.
Okay. For real, or YouTube dislike?
Well, I don't know. I was. Well, I'm going to tell you the story. It's kind of interesting, but no, I think it was for real. So what had happened was, Alan Roberts said, "You know what? I don't like you, but I'm going to come to support the cause because I believe in the Semper Fi Fund."
Oh, okay.
And so we get to Tiger Fitness. It was around 6:00 that night. I kind of misjudged how big the United States was as a country, getting from
it is rather large.
East Pennsylvania to Cincinnati. But man, I did 160 that last hour. But Steve was very cool. He was very gracious. And we get there, and then Alan Roberts comes in. So I was there for the first meeting of Alan Roberts and Mark Lobliner.
The showdown.
And there's about 6 or 8 of us in the room, and it was interesting.
Was it tense and shit?
There was some tension there. It was cordial, but there's some tension there for sure. But it was so weird when you watch these people on YouTube, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm just like, holy shit, I'm at Tiger Fitness.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I'm walking in, Steve Shaw's there, and I'm like, it's. But then Jerry Ward's there walking by. "Hey, how are you doing, man?" Making a protein shake, and then there's a guy named the Gorilla Chemist.
Absolutely. Yeah,
he was there. I wasn't quite aware of who he was at the time. Casey Mitchell and Derek Carver, I guess they're veterans. And I was vaguely aware of who Casey Mitchell was. He has one leg, he uses a prosthetic leg, but he deadlifted 600.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, he's a total monster. And So there's a bunch of people there, and but then it's like there's Mark Lobliner, and he was just really nice. It was
Just a guy, right?
Because I have this thing, even though I'm the cocky jerk, I'm actually not very cocky.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's what I said in the intro, right, and stuff like that. So, how did the nickname the Cocky Jerk happen, man? Like, I think you were going to start telling us that 20 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, I said that I had some issues with some people that I got involved in, and I don't. I just don't want to get into it too much.
Yeah, we don't need details.
But they had something where I was referred to as a cocky jerk.
Oh, okay. All right.
By another party.
Right.
But so I just thought, you know what? I like it, the cocky jerk. So I just said, I'm going to run with that.
Yeah.
And I ran with it, and I'm sure it ticks them off to see my YouTube channel keep growing and my training going, and
especially using the moniker they gave you, and you're actually using it and stuff. So
kind of indirectly from a third party.
Yeah.
So, but So
Mark Lobliner's there. You walk it in. They're all cool. And
we went into the gym.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to work out that day. I hadn't slept. I literally lived on pre-workout.
Jesus.
For like 3 days.
Standing in the car.
Yeah, standing in, just like the Flintstones putting my hand up there. Get me there! I'm ready to go. But so anyway, they were in the gym. They were working out. We shot a little bit of video, and I was just so humble. Like I couldn't. The cocky engine wasn't going on. I was just like, because I'm a nothing burger. Like I think I had 500 subscribers at the time.
Yeah.
I'm still a nothing burger, but I could probably have 1 million subscribers and still think I was a nothing burger. But
I think to be a little bit, and that's something we talked about too with my bench, is that I'm probably not cocky enough. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, it's just. Humble's okay.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But every once in a while, you've got to step it up a little bit, I think.
Absolutely,
right? That kind of thing. And,
So it was nice. We met everyone. Everyone was awesome. And then the next day, we went to Real Weights for Real Heroes. And I have video. If people go on House of Gainz, they can see I have interviews with Jerry Ward. Jerry was a great guy from Biohistory Training.
Yeah.
Really like Jerry. He made a reference to talking to my wife and I in one of his videos he put up after. And I met Big J. One of the biggest questions we got in House of Gainz is, are you Big J? And I'm like, no, I'm not Big J.
Okay.
Well, are you his brother? No.
Because you guys look a lot alike?
Okay. And then it's like, well, are you his cousin? And the other, and another question I get a lot about is, are you Big Papa Pump? I'm like, are you kidding? Do you see?
I can see that with the glasses, though, and stuff. You got the
but I've got 20-inch arms, but he had like 28-inch arms, man. Like, I'd have to put footballs in my arms for him to be that big.
That's crazy.
But, anyway, so Big J was amazing. We met so many people that weekend. Seth Feroci.
Yeah, he seems really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, I think Seth was he was just awesome. And if you go on my video where we were having a little bit of audio issue when I was talking with him.
Right.
And but my biggest question for him was, are you and Zach Wild, the guitar player for Ozzy, related? Because they're the same. Like, Zach's really into working out. He likes to just go outside and shoot things.
Right.
And a lot of people don't get that joke, but Seth Feroci did it. So if you ever go on the video that I put up, part 2, where I get to ask him that question in person. I did a video about a year ago about that. It didn't really take off too much, but where I asked him a question, so you can see some of my guitar playing some of the Zach Wild riffs and licks and stuff. But anyway, so we met Seth Feroci, Alan Roberts from Every Damn Day Fitness. We did a nice little interview with him. Alan was a little controversial. Like, he has an edge to him, and he has, I had a joke with him how many times he can use the F word in a minute.
Oh, because he likes to swear a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Alan was a really nice guy. I mean, maybe he rubbed some people the wrong way or whatever. But he got out there and he's doing well. And I was just talking with him on Instagram about a week ago. Alan's a really nice guy. And who else did I meet? God, I met so many people. Nick from Nick Strength and Power. That kid, I don't know if you've seen his
I've seen
channel.
Some of his stuff. Yeah.
He's got over like 200,000 subscribers now. It's like crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I love that kid, but half of his videos are about a hedgehog pet.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's huge, right?
Yeah, but no, he was a really nice guy too. I met a lot of people. There's a lot of people with up and coming YouTube channels there that I met as well. And, we kind of, some of them, if I didn't meet them that day, we kind of connected after.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of celebrities there I didn't even know. Like that Chris Jones from Physiques of Greatness or whatever.
Yeah, POG, yeah.
He never appealed to me, and I don't know why, but he was there when I was there, and everyone's running around and crowding around him and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't see what... I don't know. I don't know much about this guy.
I watched a little bit because I was watching a little bit of the I like Elgin Intensity. You know, I like watching him, and then he's always shitting on POG's ex-partner there. What was it, the Latin guy there?
Yeah, I never followed them. The co-host of the original House of Gainz, he was really into them, but I didn't.
Yeah, so I was watching some of the POG stuff, and this guy's in good shape and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it's just I don't know, I don't get it, So, but again, that's the way things are, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't get someone else is like, oh my god, they just came out with a new video, let's watch it and stuff. So, at the end of the day, I think it's trying to find. Like you, whatever we do, we want to do well with it and stuff like that, right? So, I have like 600. It was cool. I took a picture. I had 666 subscribers.
I was there when you took the picture.
Very evil, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm up to like 620, 684 or something crazy. Like, I mean, I'm crashing the YouTube servers. Yeah. But, it's cool. So you had like 5, 6 something, and then you started going, you made that Castleberry video.
Yeah, I had 800 subscribers in a month.
Yeah. And now you're up to like 1,700 or whatever.
I'm got to be around that. I haven't
that's in
checked
a couple of months. Like you've more than doubled.
It was less than a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is when you get into that, see, there's a lot of things you have to look at. YouTube isn't a one-dimensional thing. It's a geometrical thing you have to look at. So it's like, well, I want my channel to do better.
Right.
But, and this is something too, I have to look better. And, when you've been morbidly obese, and I try and explain this to people, and it's interesting to get your input on this from your knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Meaning I was a really fat bastard.
Well, I actually didn't mean it like that, but I just mean
it's true. It's true. I wasn't always just svelte 325 pounds, right?
But what happens in obesity is a huge issue, and food addiction is a big issue, and I don't think people realize the health impact it has on everything, even coming down to our healthcare system. So when you've become morbidly obese, your body shifts. Mm-hmm. So you have toxicity issues in your body and your fat stores. You're
a sponge, right? At that point, so you're holding everything, right? All the shit that comes in settles in and doesn't get washed out.
Your liver, it isn't working optimally. Your pancreas, you're having issues. Your insulin isn't working.
Yeah. Your testosterone takes a shit.
Because the more fat tissue you have around your waist and on your chest, you have an enzyme called aromatase. Yeah. And its sole purpose is to, well, maybe not its sole purpose, but it takes your free testosterone, converts it to estradiol.
You're jacking up your estrogen, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So people don't understand. A lot of people will look at someone who's overweight, who eats bad, and just think, well, they're just fat and lazy. But there's underlying levels. I always say, we were talking about, I won't mention names, but about this one trainer who keeps himself in quite good shape. But a woman who was a friend of mine, he said to her one day, and she suffers from obesity. She's had a very tough life, abusive relationships. But he basically said in front of a whole gym, said that she was fat and fucking lazy. Like, can you imagine how that makes that person feel?
Well, you know what? It's, and I remember us talking about that. At the end of the day, the tipping, there's a few tipping points I think that happen when you start gaining weight and getting overweight. Some of it definitely has to do with lifestyle. So inactivity, the wrong activity and stuff like that definitely does play a role in it. Yeah. But then there's a tipping point where, like you said, when things start to shift, even if you become more active, it takes a lot longer to reverse some of those things overall. And then typically at that point, food has become some sort of crutch for you at that point, right? And then your body overreacts and that kind of thing. And then I think the biggest thing that when you're in that obesity mode is the mental issues, the mental stress, right? The self-confidence, the self-esteem. And you know what, for anything else, once those really start taking a shit kicking, two things happen. You want to do less because you're like, what's the point? Or you want to do less because when you do, you run into a situation where some, a jerk like that is treating you, if that happens. Or you want to do less because you're embarrassed. You don't want people, you want to be out there, you want to be doing it, but you're afraid how people are going to look at you, right?
No, absolutely.
So I think that's happening. And then as you start feeling worse and that kind of, so it spirals, right? Yeah. And I think that to me is one of the hardest things to get on top of is that mental aspect, to break that and then turn around and try to do I'm rebuilding myself. We use the term on hostile at the Silverback here, rebuilding, and that is a big part of it, to break some of those patterns.
Absolutely. Well, but the thing is, what people need to understand too, it's not necessarily a quick fix, because losing weight is body, soul, and mind. Yeah. A lot of people, I would say to them, if they came to me, I'd say, well, why don't you trace back to when you started putting the weight on? What was going on in your life at that time? Of course. Now, that might be a bit of a John Gabrielism, who's a big name in fat loss. He has some interesting concepts and stuff. But for a lot of people, maybe in their household, it was very traumatic when they were growing up. Maybe their parents, they couldn't go to their parents to talk to about their problems. Yeah. Maybe they didn't have any support at all. Maybe all that they had was food. Yeah. Maybe they've had an abusive relationship. When I look at my life, when I started to pack on my weight, it's when I started working high tech in the 90s. Okay. Right? So I was taking a lot of midnight shifts, turning my adrenal glands right upside down.
Cortisol levels shooting up.
Oh, yeah. Brutal.
Yeah.
So there's different reasons why people get into that. Yeah. But the thing is, so a lot of people, they don't understand. So when I see people are like, well, I've been eating good for a day, and you weigh yourself every day, it's like, dude, or dudette.
And a day won't outdo, 5,000 days before it and stuff. So for me, booze was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
So just, I was active and that kind of thing, but I just drank and I drank and I was good at it. So, you'd have a beer, I'd have 2 pitchers. Right. And so the alcohol, the calories, the suppression of testosterone, the liver busy, trying to process the alcohol out so it can't do any of the other things. And then, when you get a few pops in you start feeling good. And, who doesn't want to feel good? And that was like the quickest way to get there. Food is the same thing, right? You pound back a whole bunch of, chocolate fantastic treats, you're going to feel good. You got a sugar rush.
For a while.
Well, but you do, right? Yeah. And the hard part is the moment you start to crash, even your body's telling you, well, just go get some more chocolate fantastic treats. You're going to feel better.
But it's also a vicious circle because the more weight you put on, the less you're going to feel like getting up and doing something.
Of course.
Right?
So that's what I mean, right? So, some of it might have been laziness. Some of it might have been lifestyle, stress, whatever. That's the starting point. But then there's that tipping point where all of a sudden it's almost like you can't control it anymore, right?
Absolutely.
And that's a real thing. And that's why even for us at the gym, when people start with us, a lot of them come in, wanting to lose weight, and they want to change their diet, and they want this, and they want that. And I'm like, you know what? For the first 30 days, we've talked about it before, just be active. Just get out. Work out on the other days, walk, just get the fresh air, get that happening, get that momentum built, and then all of a sudden it starts building momentum and you start getting more confident, you start feeling good.
Yeah.
The best way to start feeling good quickly is to pound a couple workouts in because you get the endorphins, you get the muscle tightness and stuff, and you feel, hey, I'm doing something positive, right? To me, that's the fastest way to make the changes. And then while that's happening, hey, let's look at food. Hey, let's look at lifestyle. Hey, let's look at mindset. So for me, that's my big thing with the first 30 days. Let's just get you working out and let's get you coming back in and let's get you moving.
The people that always fail are the people that say, okay, starting Monday, I'm just going to eat chicken breasts and kale.
Oh, they go from one extreme to the other.
They're done by Monday night. They just don't realize it yet.
It's too much. It's too stressful.
No, absolutely. So, but what it's trying to get the general public to understand that when somebody has had that type 2, borderline type 2, your body changes. It's a whole different ball of wax. And a lot of people suffer from that and they don't even know. They're like, I don't know. I've been out walking. I've been, eating better. It's just not, it's a whole other thing that's,
and we want that change to happen fast because we've decided we want to change that. So, like you said, they've been eating clean for a day or they've been active for a week and stuff. And they're like, I don't understand why it's not just dropping off.
Ladies, put the scale away.
Well, you know what? And you've got so much momentum the other way. It's like trying to stop a train that's hurtling down the track, right? And all of a sudden you're just like one person pushing on it.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time with that little bit of force, the opposite way to slow things down, right? And that's the other thing. And that can be frustrating. That can be daunting, right?
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
That's where I feel you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Myself, saying, listen, I can make these physique changes, but I really have to be consistent.
Yeah.
I really have to push to make sure that it is eating better and it is sleeping better and it is managing stress.
It's a lifestyle change.
Huge. Right?
And if you do fall off the wagon, because I don't know what it's like with alcohol, because I've never, but maybe you can answer this, but with food addiction too, like I can go weeks and not even worry about, I've developed the discipline where I don't even get tempted or whatever, but then after so many weeks, I start to go a little squirrely.
Yeah.
And, but then it comes back and it's always tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, I'm right here anytime you need me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
in alcohol, we one of the things we say, it's cunning and baffling at the same time, right? So at the end of the day, I haven't drank for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm still a recovering alcoholic. I always will be, right? Whether I'm drinking or not. It's not something that you can turn around and say, well, I'm not an alcoholic anymore.
Yeah.
There's other factors that cause that and are part of it. So the thing is, I can just, I used to say I used to drink. I don't even say that. I said, I just don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't drink.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that's helped me own it more and stuff like that. Because if you used to drink, then, oh, yeah, I used to drink. Well, how come you don't? Then it becomes a whole fucking story.
Yeah.
Right. Where I'm like, no, dude, I just don't drink.
Right? So as far as for YouTube, so that's one of the interesting things. I did a video about this not long ago. And you had a podcast coming out about your macronutrients and I kind of related to it, but you said something kind of similar to what I said. So like with YouTube, a lot of it, unfortunately, or like I love bodybuilding, I love powerlifting, I love the whole lifting. But one of the things is how we look at things. We look at things kind of superficially. Like, so people, even if they don't have a lot of good content, they're not good speakers, but how you look.
Oh, they have a great physique. So you're like, all right, whatever this girl says,
like
I'm all over it.
I've seen people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I'll analyze it and go, I don't get it. Like, they're just but
there's no real content to some of these people.
Yeah. So and like even on Instagram, like, you know, when people are like, oh my God, you know, like most of the people that followers, like I watched Generation Iron 2 last week for the first time, and Sean Ray said in it, he said there's women on Instagram that have 1 million followers just by showing pictures of their ass every day.
Of course.
So
of course.
But on Instagram, it's so judged by how you look. And what a lot of people don't understand, I was talking to a fellow, he competed at the national level a few weeks back.
In bodybuilding?
In bodybuilding, okay. Yeah. And his girlfriend is a competitor too. I think she might be provincial level, but they both look great. They're in great shape and everything. But I said, when you look like this, when you're shredded, how long can you hold that shape for? And he said, well, for me, a few days. And she said the same. Yeah, after a week, forget it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when I see on Instagram, people like, you know, they're saying, oh, this person's amazing, this not. But what if that person isn't amazing? What if that person's a piece of shit? A piece of shit. Like, there's other things that go on in the industry too. Like, what if that person, you know, like steals from people for drug money, or what if they do this, or what if they borrow money from people and don't pay them back?
And I think a big part of it on social media is that most people are always posting. I find it's polarizing. They're either only posting amazing stuff all the time. Yeah. So you're like, oh my God, they must be amazing. Their life is amazing. Or they're the opposite. They're always posting negative shit and pissing and moaning and stuff. And you're like, oh, their life's a train wreck. And I think for most people, you're somewhere in the middle. You know, if you work on it, hopefully you're moving towards the amazing. But at the end of the day, we have tough days. We have tough weeks. We fuck shit up. We have great, you know. That's the real, and that's why, you know, the other day we were filming and I missed that 505, and I'm like, yeah, fucking film it, you know. You know, you miss lifts sometimes, that kind of thing, right? At the end of the day, I think it's important to show that, for me anyway, to show the truth, of how things really are.
No, absolutely, and
I think the better quality viewer and the type of clientele that, you know, you and I both want and what we do will appreciate that.
No, absolutely. And, you know, but then you get the other side on social media too. Like, you get the holier than thous. So these are people that I remember one time on Facebook, someone had posted a video of Ronnie Coleman doing leg presses with 2,300 pounds at Metroflex or whatever. Yeah. And some guy said, well, he's on the juice. Okay, well, that's his choice. Whatever. But this guy was going on about that. I said, well, okay, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you take a bottle of D-ball, you go leg press 2,300 pounds, and I'll give you $100. Yeah. You know, so you get all kinds on social media too. I don't like when people
justify why they don't do something by shitting on someone else doing their thing and stuff. There's a ton of guys on juice, and most of them can't do what Ronnie Coleman did, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a ton of guys that don't do juice that can do some pretty amazing things too, right? At the end of the day, the amazing things don't happen without hard work, one way or the other.
Absolutely. Right? And you know, I think when I was younger, I was a very judgmental person. Yeah. I'd be quick to judge people, and I really try. I mean, I've got a long way to go, but I really try sometimes to say, you know, as long as someone doesn't hurt me or my family, who am I to judge what somebody else does? So when I look at somebody, you know, when I feel like I'm going to make a quick judgment, I think, hey, I try and work against that pattern. Say, I don't know that person. I don't know what they've.
I think that's through. You know, we talked about even and you know, on the jealousy things, the quick judgment. These are we all have negative character traits, and I think the better we get at recognizing when that head pops up, is then okay. Well, why am I feeling this, or should I feel this, or is this appropriate, right? And I think that's maturity. I think that's the understanding yourself and being honest with yourself about your positives and your negatives and stuff like that. And, you know, there's a reason why I'm feeling this. Yeah. Now, is it because I'm right? Or is it because I'm feeling shitty about something, right? Or this is triggering a response in me because of something else. Right? Those are tough to do. You know, we talked about a bunch of episodes earlier about taking an inventory every once in a while and doing that. And those, you know, if you catch yourself doing that, then maybe there is something. Maybe it's you that has to address something. Yeah. Maybe there's something in your life that has to be addressed, right? But then turn around and say, okay, you know, it's I'm feeling this, and it's okay that I'm feeling this. Yeah. How I react to it is the other thing. But if I don't want to feel this anymore, what can I do about it? And sometimes we can't fix things. Yeah. Sometimes a situation comes up and there's nothing we can do about it. But a lot of times something comes up, or, you know, a little thing happens and all of a sudden we're like, oh, you know what? I got to deal with that, because if I don't deal with that now, later on it's going to be a big fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that because we've done that. We've not listened to our gut, and let something get much bigger. And then when we have to fix it, then it's a lot fucking harder on us, on the situation, on any individual involved, where it would have been a lot easier when you first notice it to either address it, solve it, fix it, or remove it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that comes with time. And the cool part of being 40 and 50 is that if you start to be honest with yourself, you start really recognizing that, right?
No, absolutely. So
not easy, but effective.
So the YouTube thing's been a really good ride. I'm a challenge-based person. I thrive on challenges.
Right.
And so now it's kind of, we're in a weird spot because we're still a small channel, but it's kind of like not a small, it's kind of, we're in a really
Evolving,
weird spot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a few people that help me out when they can, but it is for the most part a one-man show.
Yeah.
But I am looking at some point to maybe hire some people every now and then to help out, and we want to keep getting our production higher.
Yep.
And, but the stronger I get, the better I look. You look at all these different things. You always want to keep posting good content. I am so thankful. It's just the way I believe things happen for a reason. So when you came along, it was so weird because literally 2 days before we had just gotten files from a graphic designer for Cocky Jerk clothing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I remember saying to my wife, I just said, I got to focus on my training, my eating, my sleeping, and this YouTube channel's taking everything. I mean, I don't know, because I knew I'd have to design an online store and do this. Because once your channel starts growing, the natural progression is to incorporate other income streams into it.
So when we're talking about the business of a YouTube channel or the business of a platform or whatever, is to have how can you monetize it? Yep. Right. And I mean, for me, that's the struggle, too, because I am in business and I want to monetize what I do, but I want to do it in a cool way. And I want to do it in a way that's congruent with how I feel, our philosophies and stuff like that. Right. So that's really, I think that's important to do because you don't want to come across, I think, as a sellout.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I think people also understand that, if you're going to do this, the YouTube channel, the podcast, that it is a financial thing as well. So they expect now, to listen to a podcast and hear about, Hostile Gear t-shirts and hoodies, mention Silverback and receive 20% off at checkout. Well, that's not an uncommon thing anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I do listen to some other podcasts where there's 5 commercials, in a 20-minute podcast about trying to sell this and brought to you by that. That, to me, I feel is a little too much, right? Yeah. It's not where I'd want to go with things. But at the end of the day, if someone's going to get all bent out of shape because, you're sending me to a website to buy a shirt or you're doing this, then I'm like, those are the people that expect everything for free, right, all the time. And again, that's not the clientele that I think that you want to go after because they won't appreciate anything you do.
Yeah.
Right. And we do this because I love this. I love the platform. I love talking about, the over 40, the rebuilding, because I'm very passionate about it. Right.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about your journey over 40 and what you're doing and that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, it does require things to maintain that passion. And the business aspect of it is super important. But I think if you're doing good content and you're helping people, and I think that's the big aspect to remember too, is that, if I'm showing a video on the training, I'm showing it because I want to show guys how I train and what to do and stuff like what I don't do and what I do. It's not to show off. It's the opposite, because guys are asking, well, how'd you get your bench so heavy in the last 2 years? Well, here's the training. It's right here, that kind of thing.
So the YouTube is a great platform. It's your platform to the world.
Yep.
Now it's changed. It's very saturated, but now we have to talk about the demonetization thing that's been going on with the lifting industry.
Right.
So if anyone knows who the Hodge twins are,
so
the Hodge twins, they were red hot a few years ago, smoking hot.
You were telling me some of their numbers. That's crazy.
I mean, I was told that from someone else who's a big name in the industry. I won't mention his name, but but they had a dramatic cut in their revenue. But see, when they had their niche was, it was lifting and stuff, but they really incorporated the crude sexual humor, which, I mean, I have to admit, I do like the Hodge twins, and there was times I laughed so hard at some of their videos, I was in tears.
Yeah.
But now their videos are demonetized. And now it's like, well, for them, like, now what do I do? Now
because the rules of YouTube have changed. They don't like excessive cursing. They don't like that kind of stuff. So now, when they demonetize it, what does that mean? Like, what is YouTube doing to that video?
Yeah. So you got to think about it too. Like, if you were the CEO, like, there's two sides to that. If you're the CEO of Walmart, would you want your ads on a video where guys are talking about sugar walls and laying pipe to a woman all night long? I don't know. But at the flip side, so a lot of guys, I think, with the demonetization, like if we look at Vegan Gainz, his humor was such shock humor, and he made his name by picking fights and attacking people.
Yeah, he was very aggressive.
Very aggressive, and he brilliant in his own way. But now look, he's got a Patreon account saying, "Hey, please support me and go to my Patreon." Like, who's going to monetize his videos?
So that means he wants people to donate, basically.
Yeah.
to keep his.
And not that
videos
I'm
on.
saying that that's wrong. I'm not
Right.
saying that's wrong, but I'm just saying is the YouTube game has changed. And
Right.
and now I always stayed positive about it. I got hit with what's called the yellow wall of death. Back in the summers, right before I left for Real Weights for Real Heroes, they just started taking everybody in the fitness industry and boom.
If you were in the fitness industry, they just lumped you together.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what it appeared to be. So Nick Strength and Power got hit. He did a video about that as
So
well.
when you say got hit, like what happens?
So your monetization went from green to yellow, saying not suitable for.
So if it's
content.
green that you can monetize it, you'll get money on your
Yeah.
clicks and on your views. And then if it's yellow,
Louis Marco is another one. He just got nailed. Bam.
okay.
So-
and then red, does red happen too, or is it just green and yellow? I'm just following the traffic.
I don't know if
colors.
it's all the lights of the traffic lights, but
I base my whole life around the three colors.
so I don't know what happened there. So I chose to stay positive about it.
But
'cause
yellow's bad.
yellow's bad.
Okay, yeah.
But what happens now is you'll probably find, I don't know if you've encountered this, but just about every video I put up, it'll just say not suitable. So then what you do is you can contest it.
Okay.
So I've done that, and then within a few days, it's monetized again.
Okay.
But there's certain triggers. So, I mean, when you upload your YouTube video, it's scanned through. It scans through their software to see if there's any about your music.
Okay.
So if it's a copyrighted artist,
Right.
if that music's in the video, I don't know if it scans for language, bad language.
Right. Definitely the title, what you put in your text and your titles.
And
right?
titles and your tags too. Like Rich Piana, if you mention that, boom, you're not going to be monetized for whatever reason.
Really?
Boston Lloyd, yeah. So
Boston Lloyd.
yeah.
How come?
I think just because he's connected with, the drug use and everything.
Now, is it also because they filed a lot? Those guys might have filed a lot of copyright issues as well.
I know. I think
No,
it's just because of their content.
They're just
yeah.
ne'er-do-wells or viewed as ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah. If you mention steroids, PEDs, SARMs, any of that stuff,
Interesting too, because at the end of the day, you've got this whole freedom of speech gig. So
Yeah.
you can still put your videos up. You just won't get monetized.
Yeah.
So do you find there's guys on YouTube now that are doing videos specific for monetization, and then they'll turn around and do and here's my video on this.
Yeah.
Where they'll say, hey, I'll get viewers and I'll get subscribers, but I know I'm not going to get paid for clicks or views. And
I
stuff
look at
like
it
that.
both ways. So if I put up a video that's good content, but I know it's not going to get monetized, I'll put it up anyway because
Right.
if people enjoy it, like I appreciate the fact that people believe in me and my channel enough that they'll click subscribe and they'll set aside a little bit of time in their week every week to watch my videos, right? But the demonetization thing, I see the two sides. Like so you're representative of Hostile Gear.
Yeah.
So if you paid Google to advertise your product,
Right.
and let's say one of the channels was a place that promoted beating of women for sexual reasons.
Right.
I know you well enough to say I don't think you would be too happy about
No.
that.
No, of course not.
So
Of course not.
Yeah.
No.
so that's just a crazy example.
No, but true. And I get that, right? I get that when the advertiser's looking at it and stuff like. So I think and like anything else, as a platform evolves, every once in a while, it's almost like they have to clean things up, that kind of stuff, and have a reckoning. And then those who stay also are showing them that hey, they're committed to it as well. So
But
I
there's
guess
probably
that's
other
part of
people
it.
there's other people that'll just say, oh, I'm not doing YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Well, everyone jumps on what they think is easy and exciting, and then they realize, like us putting a podcast out. We sit down every week and we record, 2 to 5 podcasts every week. There's work to be done with that, right?
Absolutely,
That kind
yeah.
of thing. So a lot of people, the moment it becomes work, either can't or won't or can't maintain it. When I first launched a podcast in 2013, I loved it, but I had so much going on, I couldn't stay consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're with Luke and Podcast Wagon as our producer, we meet, we do it, that kind of stuff. But then the stuff I'm good at gets done, the stuff that he's good at gets done, and we're able to maintain that consistency. And that's why we're at 50 plus episodes in what, 8 weeks? It's good. 9 weeks, I guess now, or 12 weeks. June. So June of 17, we started. For those of you in the time machines, but it's cool. It's great. Like you, I wish I had more downloads. Like you, I wish, But then again, I was saying earlier, I was in a store the other day, and some guy found out who I was and just said, "Hey, I'm listening to your podcast."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty exciting." So the proliferation is happening and stuff, right? And you never know who's going to listen to it, who knows someone else, who you walk in. I mean, you and I met because I walked in. I met Bryan, and I went to his restaurant, and as I walked in, we got introduced, and we started talking, and bing, bang, boom, right?
Yeah.
So you never know who's watching.
No.
You never know who's listening, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't put shit out, right? no one will find out about it,
No,
right?
absolutely.
That kind of thing. So I think that's the magic of having your platform, YouTube for you, podcast for us and stuff. And, I am intrigued by the YouTube stuff. I definitely want to get more of that going because people are actively looking for stuff to watch.
Yeah.
People are actively looking for podcasts to listen to while they drive, while they train, that kind of thing. So I think it's very exciting times.
Yeah.
Luke and I will sometimes go over and look at other podcasts that are out there, and we see like 5 episodes and then they're gone. And some of them have like real production value behind them and stuff.
Yeah.
But they just, it got work or something happened, stuff like that. So there's something I say all the time in training, in life, in business, is being consistent. Keep moving forward.
Consistent,
keep moving forward.
But also instead of going the ready, aim, fire, one of my business mentors, his thing was ready, fire, aim.
Yep.
So if it doesn't work, why did it not work?
Yep.
Tweak it.
Yep. John Lee Dumas says something really cool. It says if you're not embarrassed by the first version of what you're doing before you put it out there, you waited too long. Yeah. And I truly believe that, right? Yeah. And I think that again, look at some of your original videos, listen to some of our first podcasts and stuff. It seems easy now, and people are like, it's really easy for you. I go, yeah, but it was really hard. Yeah. And even some weeks I'll be staring at Luke, he'll be staring at me, and we're like, what do I talk about? What's going on, right?
You just get me involved. I don't shut up. That's what my mom tells me.
No, but it's good, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, and I think that's kind of cool too, because I have a lot to say, so it's a chance to do that. You have a lot to say, so it's a chance for you to. So that's kind of that outlet, that creative outlet, and get a chance just to be yourself and stuff, and then. Just you throw it against the wall, see what sticks, man.
But the whole podcast thing, the thing with YouTube with the demonetization, so it ticked a lot of people off. Yeah. And you know what? The strong shall survive.
For sure.
The weak die off. So I always think of in that situation, I chose to stay positive when a lot of people were angry.
Yeah.
And I always remember this movie. It was a John Singleton movie called Higher Learning. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Who was in that?
Omar Epps.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's. And it's about this young fellow. He had a football scholarship to go to a big NCAA university, college, whatever. And he really had a chip on his shoulder because he had a very tough upbringing.
Right.
And I think he was raised by the church or something. Don't quote me, but he was a track athlete too. Right. And the track team, he went out and he was getting his butt kicked. And he went to this professor all the time who ended up almost kind of being his therapist. Mentor, yeah. And the teacher was trying to say to him, look, the world owes you nothing.
Yeah.
Drop this chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And he said, listen to me. So the guy you're competing against for the position runs faster than you. What do you do? He's basically saying, step up your game.
Yeah.
And then finally the guy gets it. And it clicks, and then he takes off from there. But just step your game up, man. Step your game up. So
look to improve on what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I find one of the things that I don't know if it's a detriment, but I find I get so absorbed with what I'm doing. I don't have as much time now to look at some of the other channels to see what they're doing the way they used to. I don't get too wrapped up in what a lot of other channels are.
I think you need to be that way. Be focused on what you're doing. Because in business, if you sit there and start worrying about your competition all the time, you'll go crazy. I think you need to be aware of who your competition is or what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you have to follow what you believe to be true and have a plan. We talked about that before. Have a vision, have a plan, and execute on it. And then you adjust as you have to. But along the way, be aware of what's happening around you. Don't let things your competition are doing impede you, right? Yeah. But at the same token, a big part of it is just put your fucking head down and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
Man.
At the end of the day, so what? Every day there's a podcast that comes out. Every day a YouTube channel, I'm sure it's more than that. Every day a clothing company. Every day a gym's going to open, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, right? You just got to keep moving forward, doing what you're doing, looking back, realizing this is working, this is not, and just keep being, tinkering on your product to make it better and true and follow your passion with it. And at the end of the day, I do believe there's a thing of there's abundance. Yeah. There's enough for everybody out there, but you have to go out and get it. Right, that kind of thing, and you have to be present, and you have to be able to take the shit kick. You get the shit kickings along the way, and you're going to get shit kickings along the way, and that's why so many people don't do stuff because they're afraid of a shit kicking, or they've had one or two, and they're not willing to keep putting up with it.
I often say, again, it's not to be negative, but our co-host, when we started that channel, I said we're going to get haters, we're going to get flamed, and his quote to me was, he said, "Do you think I care what somebody in China says about me?"
Yeah.
Well, once it got going.
Yeah.
He did have a problem with and I remember several of his outbursts where for me, I just always had fun with it.
Yep.
And I actually know how to nicely joust with some of the, the people that comment, and half of them end up being subscribers.
And you said something cool about that, how you'll sit there and do that. But now you're getting to a point where it's getting so busy, you don't even have time for that as much anymore.
Well,
and it doesn't matter as much.
No, it doesn't.
Right?
Like Rich Piana never commented, and he appreciates haters because they're giving him views, getting people.
And listen, at the end
of
of the day, as long as you've got more likes than dislikes, you're fine.
I'm not even sure that matters anymore.
No,
as long as there's activity on your channel.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to at least give some type of response.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I had a video a few weeks ago. I had over 300,000 views, and the comments were just insane.
Isn't that crazy, though? 300,000 views?
Yeah. But you can imagine how it would be for someone like that PewDiePie guy who's got like 50 million subscribers.
Who's PewDiePie? I don't even know.
He's this kid. He was
made this shit up.
He was like a college dropout in Sweden, and he was selling hot dogs at a vending stand on the street in Stockholm or something. He started this. It was like a gaming channel with like that. What's that game there? The blocks that. Oh, geez, I should know it.
Not Tetris.
No, not Tetris. No.
You build your village, you build your world and stuff like that. What the hell is that? Come on, Luke. What?
Minecraft.
No. It's Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft. Yeah.
No, Minecraft, Luke.
I think he started with that. He just do stupid stuff on his thing, and people kind of found it.
That
like
blows me away. Actually, there's a lot of YouTube channels that are popular, and it's you watching them play a game.
Yeah.
Like you're not even playing the game. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna watch this. I guess it's like porn, right? You're not really banging the chick. You're watching some guy bang the chick. So I'm like, hey, all right.
Plead the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, I get that. I just, I don't know why you'd watch for more than 3 minutes, though. I don't get that part. But anyway.
But he had over 50 million subscribers. They said like his documented revenue for 2015 or 2016 from Google was 15 million.
Isn't that crazy? Is that crazy? When we look on my channel and we were looking at my monetizing and Google owes me $136. I'm like, that's amazing. $136. How do I get to it? I'll tab, But,
we're going to spend more than that when we go out for lunch today.
But it's cool. It's a rush, right? It's really cool. But going back to it is that you're 44, you're rebuilding. We were just in the gym yesterday. You fucking pulled a 655 deadlift. It's up on YouTube. A plate fell off. You still drove it up, but at 44, a shit ton of injuries, and you just PR'd on your favorite exercise, right? Yeah. And it was awesome. And that's what I'm saying is I want you guys that are listening to this is that, listen to the excitement in Bryan's voice. Listen to what he's doing. 2 years ago, his fucking life was a shit show.
Oh,
right?
beyond.
That kind of thing, right? So that's
could be made out to be a movie. I own the rights to the story, folks.
Well, exactly. But you know what? And we've talked about that before, and that's one of my favorite things even Joe Rogan has said. What he loves the most, and I totally agree with him, is, a success story. But what he loves the most is when someone has fucked up their shit and turns around and rebuilds it and stuff. And to me, that is the message that's so important and so big for what we want to talk about and what we want to put out there with the Silverback, blueprint, is that it's never too late, right? You can fix things, you can get on top of stuff, but there's a point where you just have to fucking do it and make it happen and stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And to me, that's the exciting part. And that's the part where, there's not too much time. There's not worrying about time being left over and stuff. Because you can get so much done, especially this day and age. You can accelerate things so fast the moment you put some passion behind it and stuff.
Absolutely.
So
I just had an idea, just came to me.
Yeah, so we're playing X and O's and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. I've for the last hour, I've won almost every game and stuff. So he went to paper, rock, scissors and punched my hand. So that kind of thing. At the end of the day, the big thing that I think is exciting, and one of the reasons why we've gotten behind you as the brand of Hostile Gear is because you're doing the stuff that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Every guy out there can do it. Find your thing, go out there and get it done. That's the idea behind this. I've had numerous guys contact me and tell me that thank me for the podcast because it's like that synchronicity thing. We're saying they heard this one podcast and they needed to hear it that day at that time for what they were going through. So I think to me the platform here, podcasting, your platform, YouTube, I think they're super valuable.
Oh yeah.
I think and I'm not just saying that because we're getting involved with each other. I'm saying it because there truly is value and content and a message out there for our listeners to do is head over to House of Gainz. The show notes will have the link in there as well. Watch what Bryan's doing, and Bryan and I talked about some goals that he has in the gym, and I said he has a couple of really big ones which excite him and excite me, and I said just let's go after them, and let's just use, the videoing as a way of documenting it. And when you hit that one goal that we're talking about, then we'll turn around and say, hey, this is what the goal that we set forth X amount of months ago or whatever, and now we can go back and say and talk about how that was done and doing it. But along the way, it's the journey. Watch what's happening.
No, absolutely.
See how things are progressing. I'm having more fun than ever benching. You're having more fun than ever deadlifting, and we have that one thing that's keeping us excited, that gets us motivated to go in on the days where it is tough. Brian comes out to train with us on Sundays. He drives up from Smith Falls. That's an hour plus one way, right? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. It's worth
Absolutely.
it for him. I'm in there on a Sunday hanging out with him and stuff like that because it's worth it, right?
Yep.
For his training, my training, and for what we're looking to do and our platforms and how we want to put our voice and our message out there.
Yeah.
To me, that's super important. So what I want you guys to do, we're going to have Bryan on again for sure. I mean, I think we just, as a tip of the iceberg here. But like I'd like you guys to do now is head on over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. In fact, like we said last couple episodes, we can do it right from our iPhones now. We can just scroll down to the bottom of the episode, and you can give us 5 stars. If there was 6, I know you'd give us 6 stars. Leave us a review. Any questions, any comments, something you want to hear about, that kind of stuff, kurthaus@gmail.com. Head over to hostile.gear.com. Silverback for 20% off. Get some cool stuff. A lot of new stuff coming out. It helps us. It helps support what we're doing. But really, it's helping, when we use the word hostile, we're being hostile against mediocrity.
And also for men I just want to point out, for men that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, dude, life isn't over.
Mm-hmm.
Life isn't just drinking beer, eating chicken wings, and watching your favorite team at a bar.
It's past that. It's beyond that.
Yeah, like take control, get in the gym, kick some ass, get your testosterone back up.
Absolutely, guys. Listen, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.